the Oz report for February 15th, 2021. And I have my list of items that I want to talk about here. And let's maybe talk, let's start with Plex. I never talk about Plex during the Aeon Fund. But I'm talking about Plex today because something interesting happened. If we look at the market graph, we can see that there was a previous support that everyone was talking about at around 2.5 million or just below. It has broken this support. So there is actually a vast oversupply of Plex in the game right now. And the reason for that is we had, or several reasons for that. One is certainly people buying into the market with real cash in order to join the war, in order to skill into certain chips. But then also there was a sale now on top of that over Valentine's Day to get the Hard Surge skins if you bought Plex, I think, or Omega. But either way, it's the same effect, because if people are buying Omega with cash, then they're buying less Plex on the market. So this is certainly a significant event of Plex dropping below that previous support. So that's something to consider. Maybe watch for that to slow down. If the trend does turn around, you can see Plex typically has very very significant trends over time. So as long as you make sure you don't miss a certain jump off point, you can actually make some money. Just be aware that this is a market that is very much controlled by CCP events and sales and real world impacts on ETH. Let's quickly talk about the Guardians Gala as well, right? The Guardians Gala is the new event that is going on at the moment. And we talked about this in last week's Oz report, because obviously this is going to have an impact on agency boosters again. However, these agency boosters aren't dropping as much as they are in the Winter Nexus, as they were in the Winter Nexus event. So if you look at any of the Dose 3 and Dose 4s, which are the ones that I trade in because they are actually where the market is large enough for it to be worth it, then you can see that they all started dipping down a little bit, but not nearly as sharp as they did during the Winter Nexus event. What does this mean for you? You can invest in these things. They hadn't fully recovered from the previous event, so right now is still a good time to buy into these agency boosters, but you're just not going to have the big swings that you had in the Winter Nexus event. So carefully gauge whether it's worth your capital or whether you can make good money somewhere else. Me myself, I am buying in again just because I have a lot of capital and I appreciate those 10-15% that I get. We then also have Domination and Shadow's Apprentice items drop. Last week in this Oz report, we talked about the highest volume ones that I've listed here as well, and we are just simply not seeing a big impact on any of these events, on any of these faction items, right? There isn't enough of them dropping for this to be a big deal. You see some previous trends continuing, but this isn't really a big money-making opportunity yet, and I don't foresee it being. You can keep an eye on it, but it's not going to be nearly as profitable as the true Sancha items were in the Winter Nexus event. That's a pity, but it's also good because it doesn't make markets crash as hard as the Winter Nexus event did. The Winter Nexus event actually took certain markets and just destroyed them. So let's talk Cerebral accelerators. This new event also introduced the bonding type Cerebral accelerators, and I mentioned this briefly on my stream earlier. If we're looking at the skill point efficiency of these accelerators right now, they are just way too expensive to be ISK efficient. If you're looking at the sell prices, the ISK efficiency per SP is around 1800 or higher, and that means right now these only make sense for characters over 80 million SP, and that's ridiculous, right? So for all characters below that, it's actually more efficient to just buy a skill injector and immediately inject stuff. So the current prices are obviously too high. there's two types of people that are buying right now. One, the mathematically challenged people. Two, the people that are trying to flip these because the margins on these are good. And I've actually been able to flip some of these, especially on the basic ones. I've been flipping them from 20 to 50. So you can, but it's very risky because they should be dropping in price. Except for the fact that the sites dropping these are much more rare and difficult. Rare on the exploration side, difficult on the combat sites than the Winter Nexus sites were. So these are going to be very limited in supply. So I actually don't see a good market for these bonding accelerators. I was planning on buying them all out, and that opportunity just didn't come because they are too expensive. And right now it's just something to play with for very rich players. I've also looked at the Master at Arms and Expert Cerebral accelerators. These are the permanent ones that are in game, that are not event based, not temporary, that are direct competition though. They offer 8 and 10 attribute enhancement points respectively. The Expert one is a long duration one, and the Master at Arms a short duration one. Very limited in supply, and these are also only interesting for characters that have over 80 million SP. For everyone else, these are not profitable. Actually, it's cheaper to just use skill injectors. Why am I mentioning these? Because you can see that the expert ones have actually been rising in price significantly, and this means that there is a good demand on these. And the Master at Arms ones, which are which are not exact because they have a different duration and slightly different attribute enhancement, but they are technically in the long term very good substitutes for each other. They have been crashing in price, and they have dipped below the ISK efficiency of the Expert Cerebral accelerators. So if these keep on rising, then so will these. And so I am actually buying into this market, expecting this to rise. So just something for you to keep in mind. It's fairly advanced stuff. It's fairly advanced math. So I go into these markets because there's less competition due to said mathematically challenged people. Let's talk Abyssal materials real quick. 2 types, right? One, the crystalline isogen 10 and the 0-point condensates. These are the abyssal materials that are dropped in abyssal sites and are used in tier 1 abyssal ship, Triglavian ship construction. And these have been fairly constant in price. Recently, they have both been quite constant. The amount of people running abyssal sites, though, if you look at the Abyss tracker, has been dipping quite significantly in the last week. Now, this is also because people are running Guardian's Gala sites, but even the long-term trend has tripped around, right? Or has turned around. This doesn't need to mean something huge, right? But it's enough for me to speculate on these rising in price. So what I'm doing is I'm buying into these, also because the inherent margin is already 10%, so the risk of these crashing is quite low. On the 0-point condensate, you actually saw a dip, and now it's coming back. So I am taking that risk, and I'm going into abyssal materials just to let you know. Sometimes I make the markets move myself. Also, Triglavian salvage or advanced components, as they are officially called, the 2 biggest ones being trinary state processor and 0-point field manipulator. These were increasing in price because the availability has dropped so much in the last weeks due to there not being a lot of Triglavian presence in known space anymore. With the invasions missing, and so people these were impacting the prices of tier 2 Triglavian ships, because that's what they're used for significantly. So that's why the Nurgle and the Ikatursa just exploded in price. These started dropping again because people started farming them. If you want to know how to do that, go to Hateless's stream, for example, on Twitch. And that has been making these markets drop until today. you actually saw some significant buyouts today on these markets. So these current price 700k. So this would go back to here. So this was a market correction, and on the trinary state processor, the same thing. This corrected back to 40. This just means that there's probably large Triglavian producers buying these, but they're buying them from sell orders. That means a healthy demand out there in the market. So this is not a call to invest in them. This is just a call to keep an eye on them, because this is a very, very interesting market right now, because the after effects of these markets moving is huge, because they directly impact the prices of all tier 2 Triglavian ships. Let's talk quickly insignias. Just wanted to mention one of my favorite items, as you guys know, the Imperial Navy General Insignia 2s. These have been rising very, very steadily in price. These impact LP trade-ins of these types of items right here. The Republic Fleet, Ballistic Control, Gyrostabler, large and medium shield extenders and target painters, and they should be directly impacting them, except for you had this big dip in Republic Fleet faction items here. They're larger for some items, but they're there everywhere. And what that is coming from, you can see that quite clearly if you look at it in Adam for Eve. You can look at, for example, the target painter right here. You can see that the sale volume here increased by a lot when the price dropped. That means somebody dumped a huge amount of these onto the market. You know, full disclosure on these, on the large shield extenders, that dip corresponded there as well, but it just kept on going. So people are continuing to drop a shit ton of these onto the JITA market, meaning that this price drop might not be completely done. But in the end, with the input material, so to speak, increasing, there could be a long-term increase in these prices. So keep an eye on Republic Fleet items. They should realistically be turning around if there isn't a significant correction to the Imperial Navy General Insignia 1 and 2s. To round things off today, let's talk PI. Data chips, somebody bought out the entire market. Why is this significant? Because data chips are an input for nanite repair paste, and so this should have had a short-term increase in nanite repair paste. It did, but it didn't last long, because people started dropping that market immediately back down to around 80k. Still, if you're holding a big stockpile of these, make sure you sell. Right now is a good time to sell data chips. Transcranial microcontrollers, these are a big impact. Input material, especially in Nirvana implants. These are trading super low right now. So you can see here, I'm buying these at 59. 59 is an unheard low price on these. You can get your hands on some of these right now. You can make a lot of money. And the last category for today, salvage and drone parts, as we never get tired of mentioning. Contaminated Lawrence fluid, anytime this goes down to 100k, you buy them. Drone capillary fluid, buy orders at 32k, definitely buy those. Drone transceivers at 580, also buying those. These are all good buy-in prices for these items. And that is it for the Oz Report today, and we will return to our regular programming. Thank you guys for listening.